Hey, how are you? What have you been up
Hey,
to?
I just found you. I saw you streaming, and I live close by.
Yeah.
And I came to find you.
Yeah, where have we...
I joined your I subscribed to you during the Convoy.
Oh, shit, eh?
Yeah.
I'm actually about to die, too, like, on
yeah?
here. Like, my, What did you think of that Convoy?
It gave me so much hope. It was beautiful. I went down to...
Especially living here, eh? With the lockdown, with the,
brutal,
like, the
man.
curfews. Well, I don't know. Like, his also, there was a part of, like, I don't really speak French that well, so I wasn't a part of, like, group conversation for 2 years, and then going there, I'm like, oh, I understand everything. This is what it's like to be normal again.
Yeah.
But, no, like, even they took away, like, I had everything and all the doses, and they still took away shit from everyone. It's just like...
Yeah. Have you been following the inquiry at all?
Not a lot. I've been checking in. I've been watching Viva Frey's thing a bit, and, yeah.
So like there's some stuff that came out recently where Mendocino and the Liberals were colluding with the media. I mean, we knew that it was happening.
Well, because it's like anyone that was there, anyone that was watching it live. You know what's weird? I got striked too. I was the only dude to get striked, and I'm like so pissed about. I mean, a couple people got arrested. I was like, okay, I guess I'd rather get striked than arrested. But even like now, even just the stuff you mentioned, I'm paranoid that boom, that'll be a strike.
Shit, yeah,
that's fine. I can always like the stuff you already mentioned. I can't do anything about it now. But I'll go back. I'll go back and I'll have to like edit it out, to be honest. Like, because it's just like
what a crazy thing that you have to be worried about.
Man, I hope Elon buys YouTube, like, because it's just bullshit.
I just hope that you know, the fact that I think he's gonna bring in long form video and stuff. I hope that it just does better, because people actually want to hear both sides of the story.
Yeah. Oh, they'll be streaming off Twitter next.
Yeah. Because I mean, I consider myself left wing, but I despise the people that are representing
The left wing.
the left wing at the moment.
But it's funny because it was like, you know, I'm gonna guess you're around 35, right, or something like that.
39.
Okay. So when I was younger, there was all these. When I was 18, going to rock shows, there's all these guys like 30s, and now they'd be in their 40s.
Yeah.
They were like, you know, don't trust the media, man. Don't listen to the government. Don't trust big pharma.
Yeah.
And these were the people that were like, the same types of people were so against the truckers. I'm like, but they're going against all the things that you were against.
Right.
But they just said, oh, it's racist. So then therefore your caveman brain goes, racism, Nazis.
Yeah.
You know, so that's I don't know. That's like,
It was fast. I think one of the most fascinating things about it was, seeing the way that people just ate it up.
just like, and I had an ex-girlfriend, like when I phoned her and we were talking, she's like, oh, you know, you've always kind of been a bit of a Trump supporter, so I always thought you were a white supremacist. It doesn't like, it's like, okay, just because I thought like some of the things he was doing was cool and I thought he was funny doesn't mean I like, I don't think he's racist either. Like, I don't, but like I just see, or maybe, you know, he says things that are like outrageous, but I don't think he's the devil that the media portrays him to be.
Right, and I think we've learned more and more when the media starts screaming really loudly about a certain narrative, you should be very dubious about it. You know?
Yeah. Well, there's people like in Antifa, right?
Yeah.
They see themselves as the resistance, right? The resistance against fascism and the corrupt world, and it's like, yeah, but you're doing everything that the big corporations want and media want. So it's like,
yeah, it was really interesting to see Antifa being all about like, do what government says, do what the government says, and do what big pharma says, and
supposed to be like against that, but
that's the face of rebellion now. Like, what the?
Is listen to the masters and lick their boots, but but wear black because you look like a ninja.
Yeah.
No, it totally blew my mind.
Yeah. How you digging the Segway?
Oh, it's not bad. It's I wish it would go a little faster than it does.
What does it get up to?
Like 18, but like I think when I wear a backpack, it like senses that I'm like a little bit off balance, so it slows me down quicker.
Okay.
Like if I really step on it, it like slows me down. So I have one of those.
By tilting forwards?
Yeah, I have one of those, but it's an Apollo, the Explorer, but it doesn't have signals. Does yours have signals?
What do you mean signals? Like turning signals?
Yeah.
No.
Because it's hard to signal with your hand, eh?
Yeah.
You're like,
I don't really. I mean, I got this thing and I don't really use it that much just because the range isn't the best, you know.
Mine has like 100 clicks on it. Like it's a big battery, but
Okay.
so I can go pretty good. Like but I didn't like they're very sealable and they're not waterproof.
Right.
Like this thing's not. I wouldn't leave it out in the rain, but I could come in and store it in the truck.
Yeah.
And the odd times I drove it to work. Oh, the same pair of pants as that guy. And the odd time that I would go to work, it's like I'd have to like put it in the truck, and it's like a big inconvenience for everyone. And I'm like, I'm really sorry. I thought this would be better than.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, I guess I'll. But this thing I can take on the metro, right? Yeah. Like I went to the World Expo Island, and I went by the metro, and I took this on. Like you can take that on the metro, but it's fucking heavy. Like, it is doable to do it, but it just really sucks to do it, right?
Yeah.
So
I do like the feeling though. It's like the feeling of coasting on a bike, like after you've gone down a hill or something.
Yeah.
It's just like that in perpetuity.
It's funny because my feet fall asleep on this thing.
Really?
Because like I don't know, if you think about it, you don't just like stand somewhere
Right. Yeah,
for like an hour.
Yeah, without like shifting your feet at all.
Yeah. So I actually find this thing burns my calves too.
Okay.
Because I'm sometimes
There
like
you go. You can
leaning.
put in exercise.
Yeah.
It's not fully lazy.
I would say those things, the Apollo, like once I get up to 80 clicks, it's like a real like core workout because I'm like,
Yeah.
and that's like the first time I've ever driven something where I'm like, this thing goes too fast for like its
Right.
make, because it's like,
Fail on that shit.
yeah. It's funny because I'm actually leaving Thursday, so
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Leaving Montreal?
yeah, like I think I'll come back eventually, but I just want to spend time, and maybe it'll just be the winter and I'll come back, but I don't know. I just
Somewhere warmer?
no, I'm going to Winnipeg. It's
Oh shit.
so no, absolutely not warmer.
Yeah.
But what's your name?
Dorian.
Dorian. Hey.
Yeah.
Okay, cause sorry, we didn't meet before, right?
No, we've never
Okay.
met before.
Okay.
No.
I was like,
I was just watching your Convoy streams, so I subscribed to you back in the day.
yeah.
And then I was on YouTube just now.
When I stream other stuff, does it pop up or not really?
It pops up. I see your live streams.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but it's because I'm subscribed to you.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh shit, it's right by my place.
It's kind of interesting to see like where all the other streamers are. Like Autowalks is still going, but it's just like it was like such a gold mine for views, and it was like such a, and that's like just a show of like if you do something that's super trending. Oh god, I think I missed that shit. Yeah.
I think it was leaves.
No, that was dog shit.
Oh, okay.
If you do something that's trending, and that was like the most trending thing in the world, and I just happened to be 2 hours away, so I was sleeping in my car, and like it was just really good to be around people that were into that. And
the feeling there was absolute magic. It was magic.
do you want to sit and chill on this bench for a sec?
Sure. I mean, we're just completely isolated.
Yeah. So it was, and this thing of like just not being afraid of people anymore.
Yeah.
Thing I saw there was people were burning masks, and
really?
that was like the worst thing. And just even like the crazy surrealness of like it won the whole streets being locked up, but like I remember I actually shortened all my YouTube videos because I kept getting copy striked, or not caught, but like striked, and I was like, fuck, I'm about to lose. And they struck me February 13th for something. And then like weeks after I got it back, it was like in March, I got another strike for a video I posted before that. So they were like combing through footage, and like what it was, I was walking by someone and they were talking about like something to do with Rovid.
Yeah.
So I don't even want to say the word.
Yeah.
And
Say the coof.
yeah, so, and it sucks getting strike, because then it's like, well, right now I'm in a mode of like I've been uploading shorts like crazy.
Yeah.
But it's the thing, my subscribers don't see that.
Right.
Like you've never seen a short I've uploaded, but you know. But like it's funny because it brings more people. Like the odd short I'll upload will get like 10,000 hits in like an hour.
I think they're really pushing the shorts because they want to compete with TikTok. Right?
And live stream, and I actually think, I don't know, it's not the best. I have mixed feelings about being involved in it.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
So I work from home. I'm just in tech stuff.
Oh, cool.
And but I'm also a musician, and I also made a game with my brother.
That's cool. Do you mind if I ask what it is?
It's called Triggers the Game,
Okay.
and it's basically the idea behind it is it's like all the most controversial questions.
Oh, okay.
And then the idea is everybody gets a yes and a no card, and so you pick a question card, and you have to guess what the majority of the room. You have to predict what the majority of the room will answer to the question.
That's pretty good.
And then so what it ends up doing, it's actually like it's a really fun game because it's a really great way to get people talking about these really controversial questions.
Yeah, and you can't get mad because it's a game, right?
Right, and then what you realize, the whole idea behind it was to make people realize that like the other side isn't as crazy as you think they are.
Well, I was talking to a girl, and actually it was probably like one of the coolest chicks I've met in a long time, and me and her really got along well.
Yeah.
And I said, like, I'm pro-choice.
Yeah.
But I understand the argument of being pro-life. And I don't think it's because they hate women.
Right.
I think it's because they just think it's murder.
Right, yeah.
And me personally, like, I think it's kind of almost is. But then at the same time, I'm like, well, I'm not really one having the abortion. And to be honest, I'm like, I think things, even if they're morally wrong, they should still be legal. And I don't even know if it's morally wrong or not. Like, that's still going on in my head. I still think about it. I don't know. But at the same time, I don't like the argument, like, you're a man, so you can't say anything.
Right.
Because then it's like, okay, well, is it wrong if a guy molests another guy?
Yeah.
Well, you can't talk about it because you don't have the same gender. Yeah. So I think, like, it's society, and everyone's involved in society. Like, but like, I don't think it's like. But then it is funny because there are some, like, it has happened where there are like Republican senators that are like super anti-gay, and then it turns out they're gay. It's like, but it's that's a game with politics where they just want to win, and they know that most of their people are gonna vote for someone who's anti-gay.
Right.
So,
and like we've seen, you know, instead of something like people freaked the hell out about somebody proposing that they do like a 15-week ban, like easy access to abortion up until 15 weeks, and then everyone freaked out, and then you realize that's pretty much what all of Europe does, you know, and that's like
15 weeks is a long time.
It's pretty reasonable. I'd say that's pretty reasonable. The thing is, like, if you're thinking deeply about this subject, then you know that the waters are murky. You know that, like, unless, and I respect it, I'm not one of these people, but if you're very religious and you're like, this is what my religion says, then you don't really have to think too hard about it.
But then you have a choice, and then it's like, then you just don't do it.
Right.
Like, that's why it's a choice.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't do it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like the best joke I heard about it is a guy, he's like, well, I guess I'm a man, so I can't really comment, but when I'm at the pearly gates and it was my girlfriend's choice, and when she doesn't get in, she doesn't get in, I guess.
Yeah.
And I've heard, like, it's actually like, because a lot of, and then there's like older school feminists that they just won't believe that someone would do this. But I'm like, like, people use being pregnant as trapping a dude and like getting their income. Like, look at like Drake having to put hot sauce in his condoms, and like a chick got burnt because she was trying to actually use it.
Right.
And like people, like some people of the older generation just don't believe people would do that. I'm like, no, like they do. And it's like, so if I do believe if women have the choice to, but it's hard to say this because like if women have the choice to destroy the life and terminate the life, then I think the father should also have a choice in circumstances to not be financially responsible, especially if he didn't want it in the first place. But then again, like that's hard to find out as a child that your father didn't want you, and it's like, well, it's like kind of like, and all these laws start, like all these marriage laws like started in a time where it was like men in the 30s, if they left, then the wife had nothing, couldn't have a job, couldn't anything. So then, she deserves financial support because the wife is a better half of you. But
and she put in a lot of labor into the household.
But it's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
Like. Yeah. And if a guy gets alimony, it's like, oh my God, you disgusting human being.
Yeah.
And so
double standards still do exist.
Yeah, but it's like, I think there's a lot of, I think just in more intelligent, not to be like, oh, more intelligent people agree with me, but like, I like any disagreement that I've had with like a reasonable feminist, it's like, she sees what I'm talking about. She's like, yeah, you're true. Yeah. Like, I've seen that. Yeah.
Right.
And like, I'll see, and it's like I like to be honest, I had a rough go with like women in the last 3 years, and like I've had one girlfriend leave me for another dude, and like a couple of bad endings, and I've had like good endings in the past. But it's like I don't know, I could like take this and be bitter, and it's like so it kind of makes me realize why like some women are bitter towards men because they've been roughed over. Maybe they're like 40 and they've been roughed over a couple times by dudes, and it's not just women ripping guys off. Like guys rip women off all the time. Guys use women and women use guys, and it's just.
But yeah, the thing is, I think the vast majority of people are all pretty reasonable on all of these like hot button issues that come up these days, whether it's abortion or alimony or coof, whatever it is. Like most people, I'd say at this, maybe not coof, but most of these issues, affirmative action, whatever, border security, immigration, all that stuff. I'd say like
everyone wants the same thing in both arguments. I think like people that are pro-gun or anti-gun want the same thing. They want safety. People that affirmative action or anti-affirmative action, they want racism to disappear. And people that are against affirmative action, they're like, well, that's kind of racist in a way doing that. And then people that are for affirmative action, it's like, well, it's making up for the past, and it's like.
But the arguments that are amplified are the ones of like the 5% of the far right crazies and the 5% of the far left crazies who have the absolute worst takes, and they're just like they're amplified, and those people are arguing with each other from the fringes, and like the 90% of reasonable people are just completely ignored.
Yeah, but I actually, even with reasonable people, like I worked in cinema, and I find Quebec's a little bit different. Like it's not as woke here, and people do speak more their mind, but in cinema, like you're just really afraid of being construed as right wing or anything that's different than everyone else. Like it's very like everyone thinks the same. It was actually disgusting. And I remember when Trump said exactly what you said. He's like, there is bad people on both sides. And people like the next day on set, it was funny. Like every time Trump said something, like people on my work would be talking, and people were acting like that's ridiculous. There's no one bad on the left. I'm like, have you guys not seen Antifa? Have you guys not? I'm like, so there was a time where people like totally turned a blind eye to, and right-wing people do that too. Like they don't think there's anyone wrong in there. And I guess because like remember 2016, it was very like right versus left, and like, and Lauren Southern even said that she's like she wanted to call out certain right wingers, but she didn't want to make their side look bad at the time.
And
then she later did. She did a big video expose about like all the bullshit and like drama and like.
She stepped back from it, I think.
Yeah, but she like revealed that like Milo Yiannopoulos like apparently like blackmails people into getting him on like, and like. He'll threaten people and be like, if you don't do this, I'll get you like kicked out of all these groups and communities, and I'll tell people you did this, and this, and like he went around like, oh, I need dirt on this person, and if you don't give me dirt, then you're out too, and like, so with your game, what?
I think he's Yiannopoulos
he's
seems
a
like a perpetual bridge burner, like.
Well, and he also now he's not gay, and then he's gay, and like and he had photos with a black guy that he married, but it's like you never see the guy's face, so it's like I think it's that's just being like, oh, I have a black friend, I'm not racist. So what? Okay, so talk more about your game though, like if you don't mind.
So it's just it's like 200 of those questions, like is it okay to punch a Nazi, like a bunch of those. There's lighter ones like is pineapple on pizza okay, or do you keep your ketchup in the fridge, stuff like that, and it ends up just being a crazy discussion game where like you immediately like you get into these really great discussions, and it ends up being like you would think you would have people at each other's throats, but it's the exact opposite, where it's actually bringing people together. And then you'll usually, depending on the group, some people really just want to win. And so if you guess correctly, then you get to keep the card as a point.
So you guess what other people are going to put.
You guess what the majority of the room is going to vote.
So you look around, there's a lot of people with purple hair and stuff. It's totally okay. Totally okay to punch Nazis.
Mostly you'd be playing at your dining room table with a few people that you know. So you know a little bit, like this person tends to lean a little left, this person tends to lean a little right. So that would kind of inform your decisions. But then you end up being surprised a lot by people's answers.
Yeah.
And then what ends up happening is like people really.
Well, people want to kill discussion. Like, I know this guy, and he's got a philosophy degree, and like he's so self-righteous, but he's super left-wing, and everything is like, it's just like, I think because the left in the past won the culture war, so like okay, they were pro, they were pro a lot of things, and like right now as a society we agree those things are good, so they think they're right no matter what all the time.
Yeah. And
so some people, like, when they would like ignite conversation like this, they would start screaming.
Yeah,
and like even like dudes, and like there'd be guys that are like, I'm a feminist.
Yeah.
And what, you don't like women? I'm like sitting in a restaurant, like now 3 people turned around and looked at me. I'm like, geez, like shut up, man. Like what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
And there's no like discussion, and
right.
They claim to like it when people disagree with them, but like look at Matt Damon when he was on Bill Maher. Like he was getting so angry about like the fact someone said something against Islam and critiqued Islam the same way they critique Christianity.
Oh yeah, no, it was Ben Affleck.
What did I say?
Matt Damon.
No, yeah, Ben Affleck. And he got like, and you could tell he was just acting because he's acting really mad. He's like, that's racist.
I think there's speculation that he was roid raging during that time too, because he was getting ready to play Batman.
Yeah.
And so he could have easily been roid raging that time too. And I thought that Sam Harris handled himself pretty well, but man, what the hell happened to Sam Harris?
I don't know who that is. That's a singer, right?
No, he was one of the 4 horsemen of atheism with Christopher Hitchens and I forget what the other 2 were. Maybe Dawkins. And anyway, he used to be one of my favorite people to listen to, but he went full Trump derangement syndrome, and he also,
I hated him.
Yeah, and he also went. He was so against anybody saying anything bad about the COOF.
What's the COOF?
Rovid.
Oh, okay. Also, there was no, and then is like the thing I like about Bill Maher is like he always kind of said things that were out there. Like when 9/11 happened, I think it was Bill Maher that was like, these guys are kind of brave.
Right.
And like, of course, like it just happens. People are like, what the fuck? How can you say that? Because brave is a positive word, and like it was like he was calling, but he's like, no, like think about it. Like that's something we have to be worried about. I think it was him, and he's like, that's nuts that these guys would give their life for their cause. Like no one here would really do that. And he like lost his show because of that. But and then even like more recently, like he would stick up for Trump when Trump did something good. And he like even with the Kim Jong-il stuff, he's like, isn't this the best thing ever? Like, don't you guys want peace? And people were making fun of like, oh, look at them, they're gonna hold hands now. It's like this is avoiding a world war. Like
Speaking of which, I mean, it looks like things are descending pretty rapidly into chaos on a political front, but I'm interested in this because it seems like the thing we were talking about before with the convoy and all that stuff, that was the thing that you couldn't talk about, right? Because you would get strikes and all that. Yeah. Now it seems like that seems to be like lessening a little bit. You're able to say more about that particular subject, but I think now would you get strikes if you talk about the current war that's happening in
I don't know, and that's the thing, like, because it used to be the Wild West and you could talk about anything, and it's just scary now that you can't. And in the book 1984, in the manifesto of how to control society, it was make things not okay to talk about.
Right. Yeah.
And it was actually in the long form manifesto for the future, like to continue their control, is we're actually going to dumb down the English language so that you can only say, like, you can barely form sentences, and like, eliminating words. And there are words that over time that like, oh, you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't, oh, you shouldn't really talk about it like that way, and like there's well, I was talking to a gay guy, I was like, the word like should come back, like, cause it shouldn't be associated with gay. I always think, like, South Park made a great point. I always think of a guy, like when I was at Guy Concordia Metro, and there's just like these guys like not even on Harleys, on those super like roadster, like, you know, those like I don't know the proper term. I want to say rice rockets, but that's not a proper term for it. Like, you know what I mean? And like, it was so fun. It wasn't like a quick, like, you know how people on Harleys would go boom, 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 and it's like, oh, and it's like kind of cool and you feel cool. But like, this was like hurting like kids' ears nearby.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, that guy's a fucking like.
Yeah.
Like that's what the word's for.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and so, but like I don't know. It was like kind of when Pete Davidson made fun of that like Navy SEAL, and now he's a senator, like because he lost his eye and he called him, he's like he looks like a gay porn star or something.
Right. Yeah,
but the guy actually kind of defended, like, because he was like, everyone got mad at Pete for saying that, and he actually went on to SNL, and it was like a cute little moment.
Yeah, that was fun.
And he's like, you united people, Pete. Like everyone fucking hates you. But he said, he's like, I think people need to try to speak nicer, but at the same time not be offended by everything. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I don't know how Joe Rogan, who was like Mr. Leftist, is now considered like alt-right and evil. And it's just like, no, you can't talk to people on the right. You can't talk to...
Right.
And that, to me, that's really scary.
Well, it's like it's become the defense to not agreeing or not drinking the Kool-Aid, or not drinking all of the Kool-Aid. If you don't agree with the entire doctrine, then they'll just be like, okay, fine, then you're a Trump supporter, or you're a far right.
Yeah, Caitlyn Jenner supported Ted Cruz, so like she got kicked out of the club, and she actually said that on the Nelk podcast. She's like, she feels like I'm very like, I don't know. There's stuff Ben Shapiro says that I don't agree with, and like I don't know. People think Steven Crowder's an asshole, but I'm like, I don't know. Like I've watched a lot of his videos, and I find he's very calm and he's very polite and respecttive.
He's been an important voice, even if I don't always agree with him.
He's Canadian.
He's an important voice.
He's from Quebec too, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he might be from Montreal. I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, I think all these voices are important, and it's funny because you see, I've never seen a club so willing to just kick anybody out at the first sign of like, oh, you don't agree with everything that I say? Okay, you're out.
Yeah.
Just kicking everybody out. And now all the people that, like myself included, that I consider myself on the left, I've been kicked out of my own club, and like more and more and more people have been kicked out of that club, and I think we're going to see some real interesting stuff happen with the bias removed from Twitter, and I think it's going to be really successful. I think it's going to be fun again. I think
less toxic. A lot of people left Twitter, well, recently too, but like I remember PewDiePie, and like I don't know how he got labeled as a Nazi too. Like does he have that? But then like the media went in and took like photos of him and cropped like, okay, because he made a couple anti-Semitic jokes, but
he dropped an N-bomb or two maybe.
Yeah. But at the same time, when you make, like, not to excuse it, but when you make content like 2 hours a day every day for like 4 years, you're bound. And those, you know, sometimes things have to happen in the world for people to realize stuff. Like that whole Logan Paul thing, where it's because that was like the end of edginess on the internet for a bit. Because I found like YouTubers were just pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and they are invincible. And he did a whole video about it like a year and a half later, and he's like, honestly, like, I did stupid things, I got more money. I did more stupid things, more outrageous things, I got more attention, more money. I could buy all my friends. I was some nobody from Ohio. I could buy my friends all these different things. And so it's like, how can I push it? And that he's like, that seemed like an acceptable way to push it, and we went too far. But that's also the thing about content creation, is you almost can't be afraid.
Yeah.
Because there's that perfectionism. I have a video out talking about, like, I think artists, a lot of very artsy people are bitches that get in their own way. Because, like, they just constantly there. And I used to do it too. Like, I'd, like, make, like, comedy skits or, like, and I'd make vlogs, but I'd be, like, afraid to use a certain point because it's like, oh, I could use it for another video. But, like you just said, you're a subscriber. Like, you don't watch all my videos. So if I said the same thing 6 times, like... And even if you heard the same thing 6 times and it was a good point, you'd be like, oh, whatever, it kind of makes sense, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I've seen Joe Rogan say the same, and it's like, there's been people like, oh, like, I'll be like, oh, let's go out and film something, and like, dude, oh, it'll go wrong because of this, this, and this, and this, and what if this goes wrong, and this, and this? Yeah. And I was like, look at Mr. Beast. He's like the opposite of an artist. He just like, oh, we'll film this video, boom. Yeah. Let's give $10,000 to a homeless person, boom.
It's really hard to get out of your own way. It's really, really hard. I experience it a lot with music. The thing with music's like, especially like as a solo artist, you have to hear the same thing so many times in order to record something. You have to hear the same part over and over. It's impossible not to lose confidence. And it's like, listen to Stairway to Heaven, 700 times, and it doesn't matter how great the song is. You're tired of Stairway to Heaven,
Yeah.
So making your own stuff, you end up having to listen to the same thing.
Well, actually,
So
when I
many
edit,
times.
I've done a couple music videos in my lifetime. I have 3 that are filmed that I'm working on, and man, I'll tell you, those I'm getting pretty tired of the songs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know how to deal with that problem, because you just end up hating your own stuff. How do you get out of your way in that situation?
Well, and then it's like, okay, so I heard psilocybin really helps with stuff like that and anxiety, and I don't really want to talk. I feel like if I did use it, would have helped a lot of the problems that I had, and like with anxiety, and like it just kind of like I feel like it would just make you flow better, and like it has.
Yeah.
I've seen it, and I've seen people where they've been microdosing for 6 months.
Yeah.
And like they were like, yeah, my massage therapist said I had like a better vibe, and people say I just have a better vibe and
Right.
no anxiety, and like, but like I don't know, but weed was the answer to anxiety, but then now it all of a sudden causes anxiety. So I'm like, what's going on?
Depends on the CBD ratio, I think.
I'm the person. I find even with CBD, like I can do pure CBD drinks, and I find I will get so depressed,
Yeah.
like just like violently depressed, like just like life is worthless. Like I'll
Yeah.
go like from, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? But tell me more about your game. Sorry.
But with psilocybin, actually, I think it's really fascinating, because and I've definitely, I'm a fan, and I have used it for inspiration. It's not so good for execution, Same thing. A lot of substances, I think, like if you need to sit down and just like work, and you have to edit, and you have to do all that, like it's probably not the best, but it's great for inspiration. It's fascinating because what it's doing is,
I think it kills overthinking, is what I've heard about it.
but it's also like you get a lot of weird insights, right? And you can see things from a bunch of different angles.
I think you get ideas too.
Yeah, but what's fascinating, what it's doing is it's basically dampening the function of the default mode network, which is like the brain's motherboard, because we have so much information always available to us, but what the brain is doing most of its action is like filtering out information, and also keeping certain parts of the brain, keeping crosstalk from different areas of the brain. So when that default mode network is turned down by psilocybin, then all of a sudden you're getting more crosstalk, and you're getting less of the filtering effect of the information that's coming in. So it's just, that's why you get that like kind of sensory overload. Not overload, but you get more of a sensory experience.
Well, there's certain levels of it, or what the hell, I'll admit it, I've done it before, and like I just don't really want to admit online that I've done it. But like and recently, like it really, there's certain things that have happened to me recently in life that I would have, like before, I would have like been a wreck for 2 days, like with anxiety. I'm just like, well, it'll probably turn out, whatever. Yeah. And actually, I find it has helped for my creativity of like, I'm not as a perfectionist, and I'm just putting stuff out there. Yeah. And I've been, on my shorts, I've been just like putting out old videos that I filmed of like someone underwater, and I've just been pumping out. And I'm just like, boom, 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 boom. And you know what I find for productivity is minimalism is the best, because I was working in a hotel room. Yeah. And it's like there's nothing on the desk, it's just clear. And I do think like the clutter on my desk does affect me. And I am one of those people, and I think it affects everyone. Like I had an argument with a friend. He's like, "Oh, it doesn't affect me." I'm like, "No, I think at some level it probably would affect you. You're just not admitting it." But it definitely, like, I was able to just pump shit out. Like I put out 30 videos in 2 days. So it was like, it used to take me like 2 weeks to make one video, and I was just like, "Woo!"
Yeah, I think we have to embrace the imperfection, because like as AI is like is going to be able to create a lot more content, I think what we have as an edge over AI is the imperfection, that's the human element. That's why I think like AI generated music, I mean,
I've never heard any of that. I've seen a lot of the images.
Yeah.
I watched a music video the other day. It was made or remixed by AI.
It's never going to have that little subtle crack in the voice, or that little subtle, mistake, or a buzz of a guitar string.
So here's
some, in
Metallica 1, there was like in the recording, the string popped off the fret or something.
Yeah.
And So that's why like they can't really do that live, but it's like there's like this weird like after the end of the solo, because he was soloing so hard it like popped off. And there's
or Gimme Shelter, the lady's voice that cracks, then you hear Keith Richards in the back, they're like, woo!
Yeah. Like there was a guy that recorded something for me, and I was actually I did a parody video. He did like Sean Mez's. His name's Snarky Remarkable. Yeah. But he recorded, and like he doesn't have a studio space, so you can like hear birds and like a parent yelling at their kid outside, and like it's like, and like, you know what, there's artists in Winnipeg, they kept reinventing themselves, which was fine. Metallica did that a lot. Every album they were different, but like they would like rip down their own videos and stuff, and I'm like, why? That's history. That's still, and I'm like, especially in today's age, it's like Mr. Beast has his old videos that just suck, and it's like, it's content, it's a way to find your channel, it's like history of you, and like I find that interesting.
Did they rip down their Saint Anger stuff? Is that what
no, Metallica has never ripped down anything.
Okay.
But I'm saying a lot of artists I know, well, they're still coming up and trying to invent themselves.
Yeah.
I guess because they haven't made it yet, but Metallica made it, so it's like you can't rip down, you can't unsell CDs, right?
Right.
You know what's funny though? I do like a lot. I think I just like everything that Metallica does. Like I liked, it wasn't like very guitar heavy, but like that album that you can listen to it sometimes. It's not like a mainstream. It's not like I would say Kill 'Em All is not mainstream either, but that Kill 'Em All is like their roots and like how they started. But Saint Anger was just, they were experimenting with something and it didn't quite work for their fans. And but like I like that beat where it's like dun 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 dun, like dun 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 dun. Like I like Saint Anger. Or
it was fascinating. It was fascinating because I think Metallica, they were like pioneers of metal, right?
Yeah.
And then like it was interesting to see then that kind of forked off. You end up with new metal later on.
Yeah, like Slipknot, and like they're not really that related to like Anthrax, but they're considered the big four of thrash.
Yeah. But yeah, and then you have remember like all those big build-ups that, you know, that people would have. They start saying something, and then they ended up kind of copying that with a frantic, tick 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 tock.
Or there was that, what was that single song they had and was for Mission Impossible? It was like wow 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 wow.
Oh yeah.
Hey, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it was funny because I remember Metallica, James Hetfield in an interview, he was asked like, oh, so what do you think about like the Trump? And he's like, I am just, it's like during 2015-16, he's like, I am not commenting. But it's like, that guy seems like he's a Trump supporter, right? Like, or like,
there's no advantage to him or any artist saying where they stand.
I thought it was despicable the way Eminem came out and like, if you like him and you like me, fuck off. Like it was felt very whiny. It's like, okay, you want to be woke. Or like Ian from H3H3 had Jordan Peterson on and had, I don't know how that guy's considered like the devil. He's just like, I believe in free speech and I'm not going to jail for mispronouncing someone's pronouns. Like I think that's stupid.
It's crazy how misunderstood his point was, which was just about compelled speech. He's like, I'm fine with trans people. I don't care. But he was just against compelled speech. And then because of that, he becomes, he rises to like great prominence, and then he sees the pain of like an entire populace who needs like help. Just a little bit of help, a little bit of encouragement. And every time he talks about it, you see it's like broken him, and like he cries every time it's brought up. And that's just a guy who saw too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like he saw the machinations of an entire society that's not encouraging its young people, and particularly young men. It's not.
How dare you say that?
Yeah.
How dare? Well, and it's like the masculine figures. Anyone that seems like, I wouldn't say Elon's like a figure to men, but like he is, because he just kind of like, he supported the Convoy, right? And and Joe Rogan is, but Joe Rogan Joe Rogan is just himself, and he's masculine, and he's very encouraging of both boys and girls, but like I like,
and he's a sweetheart, and he cries.
Yeah,
he loves his daughters, and he loves, like, he's so nice. He has women on his show all the time. He promotes female comics all the time.
I find like Hollywood, and this is why I'm stepping away from cinema too, because it's like the toxicity of like everyone's so woke, so super to the left, no matter what. And it's like a competition of who can be more woke and virtuous, and like with those black squares. Like I know that there was agents telling people like, you better have that in your Instagram.
Oh yeah.
Like, and with Olivia Wilde being like, oh yeah, I based this evil character off him, and then I remember Piers Morgan, and he was like, oh yeah, and like, so I think it was Piers Morgan. He's like, and people say you're like the hero to incels. What do you think? And I think I don't remember his answer, but it was something along the lines of like, well, maybe that's not a bad thing, because maybe I can help them, and maybe I can.
Yeah, he was just like, because at first he used to say no, because incels don't particularly like his message, which is like,
be responsible, clean your room, you know.
Yeah, and it's also like, if all the women are choosing you, it's not the women. It's not their fault.
Well, like, I will say there is, I feel like in the last couple of, maybe I've just gotten uglier, but dating has become harder. These dating apps are bullshit. And I find it's like fun to bash men online, right?
Yeah.
And so that hurts dating. And it's like, I came from a city where it's like, I dated like 30 girls, and girls don't like to date friends that dated their. Yeah. So, or people who have dated their friends, I mean. And so it's like, dating can become hard. And like, or a couple of girls say something bad about you, and then all of a sudden it's like, ew.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, but like, I remember I was watching, what was it? It was a very like, what was it? It was College Humor, and there was like a podcast, and a guy's like, I don't get why these girls like go for these motorcycle guys and blah 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 blah, and the girl's like, well, if you're not constantly trying to improve yourself, why do I need to lower my standards?
Right. Yeah.
So, and I agree with that, and I don't think girls like the bad boy or like assholes, but they do what they like about the guy who rides a motorcycle and has a cool jacket is he cares about himself, and he puts himself first, and you can't really be and you know what, there is a bit in evolution where I think it is like they do still subconsciously look, it's like men look for someone who can take care of them, and women look for someone who can provide and protect. Even though the world's different now, I still believe that's somewhat very true. And if it's like, well, it's like in an airplane, if you can't take care of yourself first, you're not going to be able to take care of other people. And it's like, girls are like, oh, I like a guy that can cry, and it's like, I don't know how true that is.
Right.
Like, because if you're crying all the time, it's like, yeah, okay. Or it's like, oh, I wish I had a guy that like was texting me all the time. And it's like, no, you wish you had a guy that you wish would text you all the time. And
I think the appeal of the bad boy is the confidence.
Yeah, but it's also like the unavailability. A lot of women I've talked to recently say what is attractive is like, I wish he could be here all the time, but he's busy and like he doesn't need me. And this one girl I gave a ride to every day, she told her last 5 boyfriends eventually just ended up smoking weed, playing video games, and their whole hobby in life was them. Yeah. And it's like, that's sad and that's needy. Yeah. And it's like, how do you, and it's weird that becomes unattractive, but it is just very unattractive to them. It's like, if you don't have your own life, if you don't do your own things and like don't have your own hobbies aside from them, or even, and it's like, a lot of women I talk to, they say ambition is the biggest thing. And like, but some people are delusional with their ambition. Like, I know people that are like, oh, I'm an actor and I'm going to be famous, and they audition like once a year. It's like, oh, okay, cool. It's like that. I find if I were to admit what makes me happy, and I think what can kill any symptoms of depression, is how much I do in a day. And that's why I go to the gym, because that's a cop-out to feel productive. Yeah. So I don't think women like some women, go for assholes because, you know, maybe their father was mean to them, so then they pick that. And that I find that is a problem, where I find people, I would say like younger women are harder to date. Like most of my girlfriends have been older, and I find I do, but also like I'm 5'9", I'm okay looking, and there's things I could improve about myself. Yeah. Like, so I'm not gonna hate women because I'm not the most attractive, but I find when I connect with a girl, I really connect. And like,
so you go deep?
I guess, I don't know. I was talking to this girl, and she's like, yesterday, how are you single? And like, it's some days I feel like I'm really hot, and then like other days, like when I was talking to this girl last night, one of the coolest chicks I've ever met, and like, she's like you're just like so confident, you're so this, you're so funny. But I think I have a type of humor where it either really throws people off, or they think it's like really great. And like you're just an honest, genuine person. And like weirdly enough, like I've dated a lot of strippers.
Oh yeah.
And I don't like, they just seem to like my humor. I don't know. Like maybe it's because they're both blunt and we're both blunt and we have that. But when did you get the idea to make your game like that?
It was when things really started going crazy. I guess it was like right after Trump got elected and things got I don't know, people just couldn't talk to each other anymore, and the debate just completely got shut down. And I had a couple of people that I loved really dearly in my life, and one of them was really pretty far on the left, straight out of university, and another one was more kind of like
did they have purple hair?
No.
Did they have bangs?
Yes.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other one was kind of more like our, you know, what we've been talking about a little bit, because I think we're probably aligned on most of the stuff.
I would say I'm more right-leaning, to be honest. Like, but I guess, I don't know, I feel in the center. I've always been pro-gay, pro-left, pro-pot. But like Pierre Poilievre, I'm voting for Pierre Poilievre. If like that's who I'm voting for.
I know, but that's because our like, I don't know.
He's a new conservative. He's not anti-immigrant. He's not anti-pot. Right. That's what the conservatives need to like go over with the anti-gay and the anti-pot stuff. It's like it's good for the economy. God damn it.
So what would actually make you think that you're on the right?
I would say fiscally I'm conservative.
Yeah. I
don't think socialism works for everything. I think privatization of most things is better, other than prisons and healthcare.
Yeah.
Like I don't like how people are like everything should be privatized or everything should be socialized. No, I think it's like a blend. And I personally, I just like, I find I can talk with conservatives better. And like, I think the LGBT movement currently, like the most far left people in it are going way too far. You know, in Florida.
LGBTQA plus.
Yeah. And there's a lot of ridiculousness. Like I used to support everything, and like I support Caitlyn Jenner, but like they ate her alive and they tossed her out. J.K. Rowling was a big feminist, hated Trump, and they tossed her out. You know, that isn't that sad? They had an anniversary party for Harry Potter, and they didn't invite the person that made Harry Potter because she said some tweets that people disagreed with.
Yeah.
Like, and then you know what else is becoming kind of coming out? There's a lot of people detransitioning.
Right.
And like, you know what? Some things are a fad. Some people do actually feel that way, and it would be beneficial to their life to transition. I don't know. I'm not transgender. I'm not non-binary. But that's like, and that's becoming a thing. And it's like everyone was allergic to gluten like 6 years ago. What happened to that?
Yeah.
I don't hear anyone talking about it. It's like some people just like their body chemistry aligns with what the hell the fad is. And there are people detransitioning, and it's horrible, and no one wants to talk about it. And it's like talking about Rovid.
Right.
Like it's like no, we don't talk about that. That's not real.
But so my theory is that you're actually center left.
No.
If you're to do
I'm pro-gun.
The political compass, I think you would be center left, because socialized healthcare and prison, that's pretty left. Pro-gay, pro-pot, all that's pretty left.
I would say I'm libertarian is my...
Okay, yeah.
So, and it was funny because someone asked me, they're like, what's the difference between a libertarian and an anarchist? And I was like, I actually have no idea. I think it's just like libertarians are they're more likely to be a redneck, or like they just like come from more right-wing values, and they happen to also be against government. And anarchists are more likely to come from left-wing values, even though it's like they believe in almost the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's just one is a more left-leaning person, and one is a more right-leaning person. Yeah.
I've never been fully clear on the difference myself.
That's just what it is. It's just like an anarchist is someone like that's in Antifa or something, you know, like, and then a libertarian is some dude from a farm. Like that's what I think the difference is.
Except that Antifa was fully pro-government recently, which still boggles my mind.
Yeah, you're supposed to be anti-government.
So the game was basically, I have this left-wing person, I have this kind of like center-right or centrist person. They disagree so hard and they can't get along, but I love both of them, and I think there's no reason why they wouldn't be able to get along. So this was a way. The game was created in order to make them both realize how reasonable each other are.
Yeah.
And then because we just stumbled on some magic with the mechanism, with the prediction and the yes no cards and everything. We were just testing it out, and
did it help them realize it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What are some things that like popped, and what are some examples if you have any?
What are some of the examples? Well, we ended up actually, it was me, those two, and one other person. We ended up actually making the game together. And then so what we did was we started with like 800 questions, and then we whittled it down to 200. But it would be like, how do you feel about, or are you for affirmative action or something like that, or like should prostitution be legal, things like that. And yeah, I think just by being able to hear how thoughtful each other were on their stance, they were able to realize like, okay, this person isn't the enemy.
Yeah. You know what's funny? The process with sex work and the left, like, because I know some left wingers, like they would really shit on the Johns. And I remember I read a story, an online story, like, okay, because sex work I think is work, but you can't, like, it's
like the oldest profession.
Yeah, it totally is. And like sometimes I don't think it's like morally the best for the fabric of society, and like I think people should like maybe avoid it if they can. And like I think it's a spiral, and it is an addiction. It is a sex addiction. Like if you go see a prostitute every week, or maybe it's like a time saver for you, and you just like don't have time for love, and like I don't know, it gives you what you need. And I don't know, it's hard to say, but at the same time, like it's just cleaner when it's legalized. Like here, strippers are treated pretty well, I feel like, compared to the rest of the world. And like here, like the newer massages are not stigmatized.
Right.
I know someone that is a masseuse, and she's like, oh yeah, it's like not weird at all. But like in a place like out west, it's just not. And like, why should anyone feel? It's weird because like, why should anyone feel? It's two adults, so why should anyone get in trouble? It's like you can film two people having sex and pay one of those people, or pay both of those people, and that's fine. So you can pay for the act of sex, but you have to film it. So why can't you just pay for the act of sex?
Yeah.
That's like the oldest argument for that. And I remember I read like a thing where, but that's the thing, if you're so pro sex worker, you can't be like utterly offended if someone offers you money for sex. You just say no.
Right. Yeah.
Because I remember with some girl who was like very, very pro sex worker, and there was like this blog where she's like, some guy asked me while he was driving by if I would like get in the car with him and like meet him at a hotel room. And she's like, I tracked him down and like sent it to his work and stuff, and like, and got him fired. It's like, why are you proud of that? Like maybe the guy's in like a part of desperation. He offered you something, you said no, you didn't like it. Like, I don't know, like that's the thing. I've always been a defender of Louis C.K. too. Like I sound like a prick, but like he asked a group full of people in a hotel room when they're all drinking, can I jerk off in front of you? And they said yeah. So we did. So I don't understand why he got me too'd.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it was all consensual, but then
it's like, oh, I didn't like that.
Well, the argument is that they're not able to give consent because of the power dynamic, because he's a more famous comedian than they are.
I guess I see the argument.
Which I could see the argument too, but like.
So I have an example here.
And then he apologized for that. He said like, yeah, look, I don't know. I think he clarified that everything was consensual, but he hadn't thought about the power dynamic, and then he admitted it, and he was like, yeah, that's a mistake. And then it's like, burn him.
And Bill Maher,
no way to come back.
Matt
to
Damon
society.
got in a lot of trouble, and when Matt Damon said not every crime is the same, and Bill Maher backed him up, and he's like, yeah, like, well, it's true. Like if you steal someone's purse or you murder someone, like it shouldn't be the same punishment.
Right.
Like, and like, not to defend that, but that was the culture in Hollywood. Like I know of an agent, he got in a lot of trouble down there, and that's just like, and I'm not. But like they were almost like people, it was just, and I'm not saying it's great at all, it's disgusting. And but what Harvey Weinstein did, it wasn't like, oh, sleep with me and you get this role. It was, you better sleep with me or you won't ever have a career. And he wouldn't even, so it wasn't even like an exchange, it was blackmail. It was like, you better do this or else. So that, like, because that was
he deserved to get his just desserts.
Yeah. You know? So some people had the argument of like, oh, well, these women traded it for that. But it's like, yeah, but in that case with Harvey, it wasn't. It was much worse. It was, and like, you know what, people are like, why would actors do that? But it's like the desperation. Like, it's like one of the coolest jobs to have, and you just want it so bad. And like, I've acted for 2 years, and if I would have moved to LA or something, it's like I would have almost just about done anything to make it. Right. And all of a sudden you're 7 years into like living in LA, and like you've only got a couple roles, and your whole family's disappointed. It's like you will do anything at that point. So that's where that comes from, I think.
Do you think though there's an argument to say that, okay, so there's your career, right? And it's important, yes. But then something like that happens, and you don't press charges, you take it, you kind of shut up, or maybe, you know, but you don't go after it. Is there an argument to say that maybe you're subjecting the next person to a similar fate in exchange for your career?
But at the same time, it's very hard to come forward. I know someone that came forward and said, this was recent after the Me Too, and she said this guy, like, he didn't, like, I don't know how sexual it was, but this guy was bullying someone I knew, and he was like really physically intimidating her, and she was doing more of she was being a grip, and that's more of a masculine role. Like, they're not, like, women are still welders, but it's more of a masculine trait, right, in film. And Machino, so that's like lighting and camera support. And so, like, he once like grabbed her and like squeezed her coat and said, this is just like a light jacket, like this is a stupid bar jacket, like what's wrong with you, because it's outside, it's cold. But he did that right over her breasts. And like he is like a professional bully, and this guy, I've seen him bully people, and I've stood up with him, and then like he followed me around for like an hour, like poking me in the stomach, calling me a little bitch, and like whispering in my ear. And I'd be like, dude, fuck off, stop, do not talk to me like that. And then he would like put his hands up and look around like, oh, what are you doing? And I was like telling people, I'm like, if I'm so fucking crazy, because he was acting like I'm crazy, why would he not avoid me? Why would he follow me around? But I saw this girl, she complained, nothing was done about it. They made her sign an NDA, the film.
Really?
Yep. And that's what they did. And this dude, turned out he was like a producer's son. And just like the union, and it was this situation where like the union's like, we can't do anything because it's up to the production, and the production hired someone, and the production hired lawyers, and the lawyers are supposed to phone you. And then I contacted the lawyers, and they're like, oh, we can't tell you until the production says, and the production just like never answered my calls ever again. And so it just went, they're just like, oh, he'll give up.
Yeah, that's brutal, man. Yeah, what a nasty industry.
Yeah, it is. It totally is. But do you mind if I actually clip this and put it on as a podcast?
Yeah, sure, man.
Okay, what's here? I'm gonna go, but you know, I kept jumping on you when you were talking about your game.
Yeah, no worries.
I want to do a Zoom podcast later too. I'd like that.
Yeah, we can do
cool.
that.
This is good. I'm glad we met up. Anyways, well, guys, I'm gonna go, but yeah.